that we are recording. So tonight's material continues on in chapter 8 with the section entitled The Gift of Freedom. And as a reminder, we read in chapter 8, section 2, about the difference between imprisonment and freedom. First of all, to understand the gift of freedom, you have to distinguish what freedom is. And freedom can be distinguished very clearly from imprisonment. And in the context of Course in Miracles, we would identify imprisonment as we imprison ourselves by identifying with our ego's littleness, with our ego's lack of love, with our ego's low sense of worth. And the freedom looks like learning to disregard or overlook all of those ideas of the ego and walk away from them so that we are free of them. So we talked about that in chapter 8, section 2. Tonight we'll go into more specifically the benefits of the gift of freedom. Before we begin on section 4, I want to go back one paragraph in section 3 as a lead-in to the first paragraph in section 4. Thank you, David, for reading.
Power and glory belong to God alone. So do you. God gives whatever belongs to him because he gives of himself, and everything belongs to him. Giving of yourself is the function he gave you. Fulfilling it perfectly will let you remember what you have of him, and by this, you will remember also what you are in him. You cannot be powerless to do this because this is your power. Glory is God's gift to you because that is what he is. See this glory everywhere to remember what you are.
So there's discussion about gifts. What are the gifts? God has given us gifts or attributes of his own nature, such as glory and power and the ability to heal and to choose freedom, has instilled that in our divine nature. And that is largely, that cannot change, take away largely, that can never change, although it can be obscured from our awareness. And so the way in which we remember once again what our true gifts are is learning to give them away. Giving of yourself is the function he gave you. And as you give your abilities, your talents, your gifts for helping others away, it becomes more clear and certain in your own mind. So it's to have, give all to all. It brings about certainty in your own awareness of the gifts that you've always had. And the easiest way I know to do this is to practice gratitude and to be grateful for the people in your life and to offer a blessing to them. It's a practice. And as you do that, you'll realize that you have blessings to offer. So with that, we'll go into the gifts of freedom.
If God's will for you is complete peace and joy, unless you experience only this, you must be refusing to acknowledge his will. His will does not vacillate, being changeless forever. When you are not at peace, it can only be because you do not believe you are in him. yet he is all in all. His peace is complete, and you must be included in it. His laws govern you because they govern everything. You cannot exempt yourself from his laws, although you can disobey them. Yet if you do, and only if you do, you will feel lonely and helpless because you are denying yourself everything.
So we return to the idea of God's will for you. It's all good. It's full of peace and joy. However, our minds can become terribly confused and choose another path. And often do. The reason why we're here is because we are not masters of peace and joy yet, and learning to. And so there's a couple ways you can tell when you're in that state of awareness or not. One of them is through your vacillations of your mind. It's called vacillating. We go from, on the simplest level, you go from happiness to sadness or hopefulness to despair. That would be a form of vacillation of your mind. God's will doesn't vacillate because it never changes, but our minds certainly do. And particularly with respect to how you see yourself. Where are you in life? What are you? What's your life about? The ego will seek to define that for you, or you can accept Holy Spirit's view of that. If you accept the ego's definition, you will not believe you are in peace. You will not believe that you are in God. And therefore, your mind will be refusing God's will because you don't believe you're a part of it. This is not true, but this is a very prominent illusion in our world. And as a result of that, if you believe in those illusions, you actually think that you're disobeying the will of God. And in so doing, would have created your own hell, which you will feel lonely and helpless because your mind has made the mistake of believing you are not a part of all of the joint will of the sonship, of the union of all souls. Your mind would have believed you're somewhere else. So that error is foundational error. And we've talked about it many times. We'll continue to talk about it, of course, because it is the foundational error, and we must get to the foundation and correct the error at the foundation if we are to heal. David?
I am come as a light into a world that does deny itself everything. It does this simply by dissociating itself from everything. It is therefore an illusion of isolation, maintained by fear of the same loneliness that is its illusion. I said that I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. That is why I am the light of the world. If I am with you in the loneliness of the world, the loneliness is gone. You cannot maintain the illusion of loneliness if you are not alone. My purpose then is still to overcome the world. I do not attack it, but my light must dispel it because of what it is. Light does not attack darkness, but it does shine it away. If my light goes with you everywhere, you shine it away with me. The light becomes ours. And you cannot abide in darkness any more than darkness can abide wherever you go. The remembrance of me is the remembrance of yourself and of him who sent me to you.
I really recognize that you're talking in this paragraph about every one of us. Several people have mentioned loneliness in recent weeks, feelings of loneliness. So it includes that here. It also includes something that people don't recognize as readily, and that is a psychic defense mechanism called dissociating from totality, dissociating from love and oneness. When we say dissociating, we mean your conscious mind stands apart and remains not associated with love and oneness, but instead seeking some other understanding, which the ego will provide you one. So it's a defense mechanism that the ego uses to keep you blocked and away from the awareness of love. And it's highly likely that you've been practicing it today. In the form of not consciously necessarily, intentionally, but in the form of forgetfulness, in the form of idle thoughts and unawareness and having no intention and no purpose. It's a form of dreaming, of illusions. It's dissociating your sense of self from creation. Everyone has done that. So we are talking about what everyone does all the time. And let's look at the consequences now of that dissociation, because this is where loneliness comes in. It is therefore, dissociation becomes an illusion of isolation maintained by fear, and and that fear and the illusion and loneliness get all wrapped up together to create like a mood or an outlook that feels lonely. I'm assuming everyone knows what we're talking about. In contrast, and that is referred to in the Course as the illusion of loneliness. It's a state I like to think of it as a room in your mind that you can go into where you will feel all those things and they will seem very real. An illusion of loneliness. Yet, there is a major theme represented by the light of the Holy Spirit that you are never alone and that you are, in fact, it was an illusion of loneliness, not a reality of loneliness. And so this is where the undoing of the illusions comes in, where we begin to distinguish between the illusion of loneliness and the reality of companionship, the reality of our joint purpose, the reality of our togetherness. And just one more thing before I open it up for comments. We read about the holy encounter. So one person pointed out that you can be amongst a group of people in the same room and still at the same time feel very lonely. It's not the presence of bodies that is the antidote to loneliness, or even conversation. the antidote for loneliness is a type of rich encounter. I think of it as from one soul to another, where you recognize and see the light in another person. It's a meaningful encounter, an exchange between both people. It's a holy encounter. It's the perfect antidote for loneliness. And you can have that without the presence of a body next to you. Okay, Sandra, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I have sort of a question. So for me, dissociation is connected with some kind of judgment as well, that I would dissociate because I've judged the situation and I don't want anything to do with it, rather than, and this is the question, rather than letting go in love and moving on, which means the door is still open. Can you address that a little bit?
Yeah, well, let me address the perspective that I'm taking on it, Sandra. Dissociation has to do with your relationship to God and creation and the sonship. It is a device used by ego to keep you out of that awareness, to dismember you from that understanding. It has forms of forgetfulness, of just entering into an illusion. So the dissociating feels like a passive activity where you're not. So what you were talking about, judgment, is where you're actually forming an opinion. A dissociation feels like a blankness, like you're not doing anything. You have no opinion at all. You have no awareness at all. And thus, we would say your higher mind seems like you're asleep to it because you've forgotten the truth of what you are and what your purpose is here. So that's the aspect that I'm emphasizing here.
So would you say that that most of the population is dissociated?
Absolutely.
Got it. Okay, so it's all right. So that's
Yes.
yeah, they're and they're dissociated from their connection with their creator,
Yes.
which then dissociates them from all of the rest of creation.
Right.
Got it. I think I put
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. These things are used both in classic ways and other ways. This is the sense that dissociation is used in the Course, along with dozens of other defense mechanisms of the ego that we're not going to mention right now.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Susan?
Yeah, I would just say, like, a good word for me is, dissociating is like just keeping myself separate, completely separate from and not at all present, which keeps me obviously away from joining and God.
Thank you. Richard? Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I've been experiencing some good stuff. In other words, what the Course has been teaching me, and I'm not always there, is a spiritual independence where I can engage with people but still get back to myself. I don't feel as needy. I don't feel as emotionally connected and wanting to other people, but I'm still involved. There's something, and I know this sounds trite. What came up in my psychological radar was be still and know that I'm God. And so I can be involved, but not emotionally attached. I could just like, hey, this is cool. I used to envy people like that. But back in the 70s, they were just like cool people, like flower people or whatever. And I'm not a flower child, but the removing myself from all the stuff that's going on out there. I can see it, but I'm not buying into it.
Nice.
Well, I don't know. I'm not looking for approval. I'm looking for answers because I'm afraid when I think I have the answer, I need to have it validated.
Yes. So what you just said is you're seeing all this activity out there in the world that may be disturbing, but you're not investing in it. You're actually doing what we read the other day, is to disregard and overlook the obstacles of the ego. So that's a very good demonstration of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go on. Oh, there we go.
You were in darkness until God's will was done completely by any part of the sonship. When this was done, it was perfectly accomplished by all. How else could it be perfectly accomplished? My mission was simply to unite the will of the sonship with the will of the Father by being aware of the Father's will myself. This is the awareness I came to give you, and your problem in accepting it is the problem of this world. Dispelling it is salvation, and in this sense, I am the salvation of the world. The world must therefore despise and reject me, because the world is the belief that love is impossible. If you will accept the fact that I am with you, you are denying the world and accepting God. My will is his, and your decision to hear me is the decision to hear his voice and abide in his will. As God sent me to you, so will I send you to others, and I will go to them with you, so we can teach them peace and union.
So I just noticed I was echoing what Richard just said about not buying in to the chaos of the world. If you accept the fact that I'm with you, you're denying the world, which makes room in your consciousness to accept the will of God. The idea being you can't be doing both at the same time. Accepting the will of perfect love and also accepting the chaos and darkness of the world. There's an idea I want to point out here. I don't want to gloss over it, but it's very deep. So it's the idea of what is absolutely true for one of us is true for everyone. If you can accept that principle. And the idea is that if one son can perfectly unite with the will of God, that does so for the entire sonship. If one son can completely and totally willing to accept God's gift as his own, that is then becomes a part of the consciousness of the sonship, becomes a part of a firsthand experience that is then true of everyone. It's not an exclusive, isolated experience. It's an experience of the total sonship. And so this concept is what we're trying to convey in A Course in Miracles to you, is that you are already deep in your higher mind. You are already perfectly at one with the will of God. It's already been done. It's complete. It needs not any additional steps. The only thing that is needed is to remove any obstacles or any tendency to forget or disassociate with that awareness. And that requires mind training, because otherwise the mind will vacillate back and forth between sometimes aware of peace and joy, but then later dislodged from that awareness by some outside distracting force that we were referring to as darkness. Okay, and so comments, Susie?
Yeah, this line, I mean, it's so profound, and your problem in accepting it is the problem of this world. And, you hear so many people saying, oh, I just don't believe in that. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in this will. I don't believe in that. And you just said, like what you just said, we're in it for a moment, and then we're, and then we mind wander, and then our neighbor comes over and starts talking, I mean, it's just so simple, but not, And I don't know, they just make such a statement here. It is the problem of this world, the non-belief.
Indeed, and remember this line too, is this short little, this world is the belief that love is impossible. And if you philosophically examine many of the activities of the world, there's plenty of supporting evidence for that. I mean, it's not like that is just some idea that is insane. There are all kinds of evidence that the world believes, does not believe in the power of love. David?
Do you not think the world needs peace as much as you do? Let me restate that. Do you not think the world needs peace as much as you do? Do you not want to give it to the world as much as you want to receive it? For unless you do, you will not receive it. If you want to have it of me, you must give it. Healing does not come from anyone else. You must accept guidance from within. The guidance must be what you want, or it will be meaningless to you. That is why healing is a collaborative venture. I can tell you what to do, but you must collaborate by believing that I know what you should do. Only then will your mind choose to follow me. Without this choice, you could not be healed because you would have decided against healing. And this rejection of my decision for you makes healing impossible.
So we're talking about gifts, in this case, the gift of freedom. The gift is, by definition, an activity of both receiving and giving. And so the way you make it real in your own life is you both receive it as a gift and then you share it and extend it with others. And so that the goal of this course is to experience inner peace within yourself and then to share or extend that as a gift to others. That is the goal of this course. The world will change for the better as a result of that gift alone. There are other spiritual milestones beyond being at inner peace and sharing peace, but that's the one that is needed most right now. Everything else will be taken care of if we can enroll enough miracle workers into the goal of peace. And so giving it and receiving it is part of the process. And that's how we heal. That's how we help others heal. Guidance is an essential part of the learning to acquire this state of inner peace because you can't do it on your own. You can't let isolation teach you how to find inner peace. You have to do it through collaboration, through joining. And it says here that the author says, I can tell you what to do, but you must collaborate by believing that you can trust, believing that the mind of Christ knows the path to peace, that it was already demonstrated, and that you are willing to accept that guidance as your own. Only then will your mind choose to join and follow in this program of peace. In the absence of your consciously choosing, we talk about decisions, and more decisions. Without this choice, you cannot be healed because you would have failed to enroll yourself in the program of healing. And that constitutes actually a choice in itself. Failing to enroll yourself in a program of peace and healing is actually a decision to reject it. It's a passive decision. It's a decision made out of ignorance and lack of understanding, which makes peace impossible. Therefore, it is helpful for you to affirm, as the workbook lessons will guide you, to affirm that you are joining in this decision to heal. That especially when you are tempted towards discouragement, is to affirm that you have made the choice to be on the path of healing. And even though troubling storms may come along, that does not change your choice to heal. And that even the troubling storm can be used as a teaching lesson for you to help find your peace. Again, this is about your willingness to have your mind stay on track, on purpose with the plan of healing. And you're not alone in it. You can only do it by collaborating. Let's go on.
John, can I just say one thing?
Go ahead.
It just speaks to lesson 152, the power of decision is my own. It just was coming up for me. And that first line says, no one can suffer loss unless it be his own decision.
Very much so. Very much so. It's the central theme of this course, is through your own willpower of making choices that were different than the ones we made in the past. Through the power to change your mind and make new choices, that is what frees us. David?
Healing reflects our joint will. This is obvious when you consider what healing is for. Healing is the way in which the separation is overcome. Separation is overcome by union. It cannot be overcome by separating. The decision to unite must be unequivocal, or the mind itself is divided and not whole. Your mind is the means by which you determine your own condition, because mind is the mechanism of decision. It is the power by which you separate or join and experience pain or joy accordingly. My decision cannot overcome yours because yours is as powerful as mine. If it were not so, the sons of God would be unequal. All things are possible through our joint decision, but mine alone cannot help you. Your will is as free as mine, and God himself would not go against it. I cannot will what God does not will. I can offer my strength to make yours invincible, but I cannot oppose your decision without competing with it and thereby violating God's will for you.
Therefore, the importance of your decisions. And we should note that there are passive decisions that we've all made. It would be decisions in ignorance, not knowing any better, unconscious, not even having considered the implications for what we are about to do. We made choices for ourselves that prove not to be good choices. There are unconscious decisions. What the Course is teaching us is to see the alternatives clearly, to distinguish between guidance of the ego versus guidance of the Holy Spirit, and then choose again. First, by acknowledging that there's nothing the ego can offer that is ever going to bring you peace and happiness. And second, by choosing what the Holy Spirit offers, because that's truly what you want. You want to be at peace. You want to be healed. So that choice is a decision. It's the ultimate decision that needs to be made again and again and again and again, which is to choose against the ego and choose for the Holy Spirit. Here's, it seems to me people would like to make the choice once and then go on autopilot so that the choice remains true forever and ever, and they don't have to apply themselves. But the truth is, each situation in life will present you with opportunities of how are you going to respond. Decisions have to be made. It has to be an act. You are a co-creator. You become an active participant in determining the course of your own life. So you have to make those decisions on a daily basis. No one can make them for you. No one can overcome your decision. In fact, even God himself would not go against your decision, because he would not go against your free will. And so this entails taking responsibility for the choices that you make and becoming increasingly, not all at once, but increasingly conscious that your outlook, your perceptions, the mind in which you choose to identify with is the determiner of your experiences. And that includes anytime you feel lonely rather than feel connected. That includes anytime you are in conflict rather than at peace. It's always true. It's a existential issue regarding the nature of your being. Therefore, we must train our minds to stay alert to these things. An untrained mind cannot make any progress in these matters. We must train our minds on a daily basis and practice implementing them in order to stay alert, to stay conscious, to make choices that are guided in accordance with the Holy Spirit. Everyone has the ability to do that, but not everyone is willing to train their minds in a way that can keep you steady and on the path. Noel?
I liked Richard's phrase, spiritual independence, and I can see it applying here as I use my spiritual independence to disregard, overcome maybe the ego's thoughts of loneliness and discouragement and everything else. I like the idea of being spiritually independent from all the down-pulling thoughts and ideas of the ego.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Oh, I did put a symbol next to this. Why did I do that?
Yeah, this is Sandra, and I just wanted to say that I think the lesson today is really important for what we're talking about, that there is no death, the Son of God is free, and there is no time, the Son of God is free. So I don't have to worry about death, and I don't have to worry about time. And so therefore, I never have to impose on anybody my desires or needs or wants, because it because God's plan for me is perfect happiness. It's like, but there is no time and there is no death, so I can just let go. It's going to happen sooner or later. I don't have to make it happen. Um I don't have to impose anything. I just have to let go.
Okay, thank you. Um, the underscore here, I want to try to come back because at the time when I was reading this ahead of time, it was profound for me. Your mind is the means by which you determine your own condition. That's it, your own condition, because mine is a mechanism of decision. Your mind is the tool or the device that determines what state you are in, what state of emotion and thoughts and awareness. Your mind is the device. In our world, the mind has been devalued significantly, and relegated, repurposed in ego terms. What A Course in Miracles is helping to do is to ask us to forget the way the ego has defined the mind, and now move it into a place of a significant factor in the determination of your experiences in life. It's a significant factor. And so it's a power of your mind. This comes back to your power and glory, to recognize the power of your mind, the power of decision is my own, because that power can be used or misused in accordance with your awareness of how you're using your mind. Therefore, once again, you must train your mind to remain alert to these things. And we have a model. Christ is the model for a human being that trained his mind to be alert to these things. He succeeded in mastering that journey. We're talking about the plan of atonement. And his having done it means that it's done for us all. It's the script is written. The lesson plan has been created. It's there and it's being given us as a gift. We just have to be willing to do our part in accepting the gift and putting it into practice on a regular basis. Richard?
Hi, what I'm feeling, there's a word that I was taught, and I hope I get it right. And that's the word, it comes from, let's say it comes from another country, but the word is forgin. And forgin is all the good things that I want for myself, I want you to have. What this does when I'm interacting with someone, I'm in it, my agenda is just to be connected to that person. I'm in a state of neutrality. but there's nothing else going on except for the communication that I'm engaged in or with that other individual. When I can stay there and stay focused, my energy changes, and it's like so cool. And I used to feel that vulnerability was an attack. I would be attacked if I was vulnerable. But that was my ego trying to protect me, thinking that I needed that. I'm finding out as I practice this that I can engage and still feel safe. I'm beginning to feel that way. As a result of this work,
Mhm.
that it's for me to maintain. It's almost like I don't enjoy the word, not vigilance, but it's a change in consciousness that I'm attempting to maintain. And when I do, it's like there is no hidden agenda there. I'm not looking for anything, but just enjoy the moment with that other individual.
Mhm.
So I'm putting that out, and that's what I'm experiencing. But I need more practice.
Great. All right. Thank you, Richard. David?
Nothing God created can oppose your decision, as nothing God created can oppose his will. God gave your will its power, which I can only acknowledge in honor of his. If you want to be like me, I will help you, knowing that we are alike. If you want to be different, I will wait until you change your mind. I can teach you, but only you can choose to listen to my teaching. How else can it be if God's kingdom is freedom? Freedom cannot be learned by tyranny of any kind, and the perfect equality of all God's sons cannot be recognized through the dominion of one mind over another. God's sons are equal in will, all being the will of their Father. This is the only lesson I came to teach.
So the title of the section is about this gift of freedom. And now we have a new perspective on it. It's your freedom to choose for yourself what you will occupy your attention with, your life with. You can choose freely to listen or not to listen to guidance. In fact, it wouldn't be anything else but freedom if you were forced in any or coerced in any way. Freedom can't be learned by tyranny of any kind. And Julie C. and I have talked a number of times about, why is it that we happen to find ourselves in this world that is so heavily weighted towards ego teachings? And well, a part of it, okay, that's a big question where I can't take up entirely right now. But one of the things is we didn't realize we had the freedom to make a different kind of choice. We unconsciously were dissociating from love, from the Creator's plan, and as a result, became imprisoned by a thought system that we really didn't understand going in. Now we are given a gift of freedom that requires our acceptance of it in order to be participants in it. And this is the part that I've just observed to be so lacking is the gift. It's like if you're sitting in a jail cell, but the door was opened to walk out, and people often fail to take the responsibility for the walking out. They passively, we got into this predicament of ego teaching out of innocence, not knowing any better, passively, and it's taught us to remain passive towards the power of our own will. And this program, Course in Miracles, is to help you realize the role or the power of your will as a gift, but that it's put in your hands to exercise or not. So it's your willpower. No one can force you to use it, but I would caution everyone in this world about the passivity towards our willpower that is embedded in the ego's teachings. The ego teaches not only a passivity, but actually a resignation. Passivity to proceeds to a sense of nothing means anything, it doesn't really matter, to resignation and complete despair. That's the ego's teachings. So the reversal of that is a strong conviction that you have a gift, that you have a gift of willpower. It was a gift from the Creator, and that gift can help you find your freedom if you so choose. And that choosing, turns out, is more than just a single choice at one time or one day. It's really each and every encounter you have with another individual, you make these choices about how do you represent yourself in this world. You make a choice about, what do I view as my purpose in this encounter? What am I? What am I here for? We make these choices. So this choosing has an extensibility. It continues to expand and expand into have a richer and richer meaning and purpose as we come to increasingly exercise our willpower to choose. Sandra?
Yeah, because God is always present with me, therefore love is always possible. And I'm going to go back into, and there is no death, so I'm free. So love is possible. I don't have to worry about death blocking me from love. And there is no time. So that sets me, the Son of God is free because there is no time either. So I don't have to, it's like, it may require detachment, but I can detach in peace. I can detach in kindness and in an understanding. And it doesn't mean that there can't be more love extended. It just means I just need to let go of that situation and go extend it somewhere else. And that situation will heal in, I would say in time, but there is no time. So it will heal. If that's my intention, is that it heals, it's going to heal, because that's what I want. And that's what will make me happy. And God's plan for me is perfect happiness. But it might be that I got to just take my hands off this situation and let go and detach in love, in innocence, in kindness, in compassion. I'm complete.
Yes, it'll heal not in time, it'll heal with forgiving experiences. It's not measured by time, but it is affected by our forgiving experiences. Thank you, Sonia. We'll go on.
If your will were not mine, it would not be our Father's. This would mean you have imprisoned yours and have not let it be free. Of yourself, you can do nothing, because of yourself, you are nothing. I am nothing without the Father, and you are nothing without me, because by denying the Father, you deny yourself. I will always remember you, and in my remembrance of you lies your remembrance of yourself. In our remembrance of each other lies our remembrance of God. And in this remembrance lies your freedom, because your freedom is in him. Join then with me in praise of him and you whom he created. This is our gift of gratitude to him, which he will share with all his creations, to whom he gives equally whatever is acceptable to him. Because it is acceptable to him, it is the gift of freedom, which is his will for all sons. By offering freedom, you will be free.
Well, there's a lot there. The aspect that I really wanted to bring to your attention is a statement that your ego does not want you to hear. The ego would have you view yourself in isolation, alone and separate and apart, and define a whole counter narrative about life based on that self in isolation. Well, the Holy Spirit realizes that has no meaning whatsoever. That's total nonsense. It teaches instead of yourself and by yourself, you can do nothing, because of yourself, you are nothing. And so if you want to try to get a grasp of this, imagine you are the only self in the universe on this planet. It was only you, nothing else, no one else. Then what would you be? How would you relate yourself? You can't. You can only find your true self in relationships to others, and really we mean to everyone and all creation, both creator and creation. Your being, your true self, your nature is only known as a part of a totality, a wholeness, a completion that has richness of meaning. And then you are a vital part of that. But what you are can be found and understood only in relationship to all the rest. It cannot be found by yourself. Nevertheless, the ego will try to convince you that it can. And the ego, so we read just in the previous section, the ego tries to find your life, your glory in yourself alone, because it doesn't know where to look. It doesn't understand your true nature. And so this is a radical reorientation from the guidance of the ego, of trying to figure out your own purpose, trying to figure out me, trying to unravel the mystery of me in isolation from everything else. The radical reinterpretation of that is it can only be understood in relationship to your part in all of creation. So we have to, so this is why I like, in order to really understand you, we have to begin at the top with creation, the creator in all creation, and identify you as a loved and vital member of that totality. That, from that perspective, it becomes easy to understand the truth of ourselves. But you cannot get there by beginning with yourself in isolation and work your way up to the creator in all creation. That doesn't work. That only leads to more confusion and delays along the way. Start at the top with the creator and creation. You are a vital part of it, and you have all these gifts that are imparted to you as a result of it. That gives you a meaningful and purposeful function, both here in time as well as in eternity. Everything flows out of that understanding of starting with creator and creation, as abstract as that may be. All right, I think this is our last paragraph.
Freedom is the only gift you can offer to God's sons, being an acknowledgement of what they are and what he is. Freedom is creation because it is love. Whom you seek to imprison, you do not love. Therefore, when you seek to imprison anyone, including yourself, you do not love him and you cannot identify with him. When you imprison yourself, you are losing sight of your true identification with me and with the Father. Your identification is with the Father and with the Son. It cannot be with one and not the other. If you are part of one, you must be part of the other, because they are one. The Holy Trinity is holy because it is one. If you exclude yourself from this union, you are perceiving the Holy Trinity as separated. You must be included in it because it is everything. Unless you take your place in it and fulfill your function as part of it, the Holy Trinity is as bereft as you are. No part of it can be imprisoned if its truth is to be known.
So I have a take-home assignment. What's a nicer way of phrasing that? Something for you to noodle on during the week. And that is, I think it's a simple question, but I would like you to look at it through the lens of the first part of this paragraph. And that is, how can, I'll say it in first person, how can I offer the gift of freedom to people that I encounter? How, if I have this gift of freedom, how is it that I would offer it to someone else? And I would rather than are talking about it here, that you take it with you and noodle on it. The whole thing that we read tonight gives you the answers to it. It's a gift. And why is this important? What would motivate you to want to spend 5 minutes of your life pondering this, maybe longer? Because what if you have a great gift, but you have no idea how to share it? What if you have a great gift, but you're not really sure of it? You forget it quickly. What if in every encounter you have, it never occurs to you to offer the gift? These are the blockages that we need to remove. And one of the most effective ways of motivating is to realize that you do have this gift and that you can share it. But your question to yourself is, how can I share this gift with others? And you can word that in whatever way is effective for you. If you choose to share it in class later, that's fine. If you prefer not to share it, that's fine too. The real benefit is from your inquiry to self, and I would encourage you to go back and look at the reading that we did tonight for clues along that way. Okay. And then there's the second part of this paragraph, which has to do with your identification with the Father and with the Son. We're going to save that till next time. So we're going to come back to this paragraph next time and look at that gift of freedom, look at how maybe we're imprisoning did you know you can imprison your brother or you can give them freedom? So we'll look at that a little bit more after you've had some time to search your own soul about that and ponder it, and then we'll come back to this next time. So that's all the reading we'll do for tonight. Thank you for being willing to embark upon this journey of healing, for being willing to set aside the things that the ego would have us preoccupy our lives with, to disregard those barriers to love, and to be willing to exercise your power of will, the gift that was given to you, to exercise your will and step out in the name of freedom. I honor the divinity within you. Namaste.
Thanks, everybody, and great assignment. Thank you, Monica.
Love you all. See you soon.
Hey, Jonica,
Thanks,
I
everyone.
have something to say.
Oh, David.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
no, it's okay. I just want to relate something since we're ending a little bit early anyway.
Right.
This past weekend, I went to my high school reunion in Ohio and was able to experience an ego hijacking that was intense and exposed a lot of things to me. You know, it was uncomfortable, and I was surrounded by the illusions of all my classmates aging and their bodies aging. 20% of my classmates have left their physical body. Many that were there were soon to leave their physical body, it appeared. And it was not a pleasant experience from that standpoint. And what it did, the illusions of body and ego and stuff were very prominent in my observations. And it flashes me back to high school, which I hated. I did not like school. I did not like high school. And there's a line here about perfect equality cannot be recognized through the dominion of one mind over another. That's what school was for me. Someone trying to impose their mind over mine, to to force me into a certain bind, and then to compare myself, because I went to a very competitive high school, very competitive college preparatory high school. You had to take a test to get into blah, blah. And it was all about performance and competition and separating yourself from the others.
Mm.
And it really, it took me away. And this morning, Susie and I went to the Paley Institute, where they operate on children and restore spine and legs and arms on children who have been born with disabilities and who have developed issues through their experience. And it's so interesting because there I felt the union. I watched these kids, walk troubledly. I watched them ambulate. I saw the love between them and their parents and them. And it was a very spiritual, moving experience. The antithesis, in a way, of what I felt before. Even though at our reunion, we said, oh, this is a love fest, because we're all recognizing that we're all getting close to the end, and the dominion of one mind over the other, and the competition is gone at this point. So it was just this chapter I felt was really, really good about that kind of transition and believing and making the decision to give up, to give up my separation and seek union instead. So, and that's just my report.
Thank you, my brother.
Yeah, thank you.
I think we'll let it go at
Thank
that.
you, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you,
Jonica.
David.
Thanks.
Have a good week,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone. Good night.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice week.
Love you all.